6-3 ruling has determined former presidents are shielded from prosecution for actions that fall within their official job duties, but do not have immunity for unofficial acts. Tonight, President Biden slammed the ruling.
No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do.
With more, we are joined by criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Lou Shapiro. Lou, good to see you. This is a really big ruling that could have widespread impact for a long time. Can you explain most simply what the court ruled and what it means?
Yeah, sure. So basically, what the court ruled is that the president needs to have a large amount of power, discretion, and authority in order to carry out his or her duties. If they don't have that authority or power, then they're going to be afraid to protect the interests of the nation. So that is the starting point. And then with that in mind, the court says for other acts that the president does, you need to look, does that act go to the official act of a president? Does that go to the core of the Constitution? Or is the act that the president did really not rooted in it? And the more that the president's act is rooted in the Constitution, the less likely someone can be prosecuted for it. That is the takeaway from the court's ruling today.
So we just saw the former president convicted on 34 felony counts. He is awaiting sentencing for that next week, but his team just asked the New York judge in that case to hold off on that sentencing based on today's high court ruling. We'll see if that actually happens or not. But looking ahead to what this means for Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's election interference case, will that case see a trial before November? How will this be impacted?
Yeah, I don't see that case going to trial, or the other cases for that matter, going to trial before November, because the Supreme Court said, I'm giving you a test to apply. And that's basically what we just went over earlier. So now they said, we're not going to actually apply the facts of each case to the test and tell you how to rule. We're going to send the case back to where it came from, back to the lower courts. And you as a trial judges apply the test that we're given this. We'll call it the core constitutional test. And you apply it. And based on the application of that test, you can decide which charges, if any, can apply in a criminal case against a former president.
And with the presumption being that that's going to take some time to do that, and the election is in November, so it's what you're suggesting, that there isn't enough time to apply that test?
Precisely, because both sides will have the opportunity to brief the legal issues in legal pleadings. That's going to take probably several weeks, if not months. And then there might be oral arguments on those issues. And then based on what happens in those arguments and pleadings, that could also be appealed maybe back up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So there's no telling how this is going to play out legally. Even the Supreme Court said in their ruling, this ruling that we're making is an unprecedented issue of law.
Just a sort of wrap up and final thought. We're hyper-focused on former President Trump, obviously. But ultimately, how does this affect the presidency itself moving forward?
Well, Biden, came out today and said that this ruling is basically, an eyesore for America. He's very against it. But the justices made it clear in their ruling that we wouldn't just rule this way if Trump's in power. This ruling, this protection of, immunity to presidents is for all presidents moving forward. We're looking out for the best interests of the country, not for President or former President Trump in that matter.
Which is harder for some people to process that. If it was a unanimous ruling, it'd probably be easier for people to process that. But when you see all of the Republican-appointed justices on one side and all of the Democratic-appointed justices on the other side, it's harder to make that argument. And just to clarify something real quick, the New York case, which happened before he was even president and had nothing to do with his presidential duties, that shouldn't have anything to do with this, right?
Yeah, I was wondering why there's even a letter sent about that. It really doesn't apply. So it'll be interesting to see how that all unravels moving forward.
All right, Lou Shapiro, thanks so much for sharing your insights on this. We appreciate it.